And now we're going to dig into the Word. So I'll ask you the question. Are you good at loving people? Some of you better than me, man. I see people in here that are better at loving people than I am. As a kid, I was an only child. I grew up, my half-brother was like 12 years older than me. I was pretty much an only child. Most of my life, I really lived with my parents. It was me. And my dad exposed me to a lot of diversity. He brought me into situations with the LGBT community, brought me into situations with the Jewish community, because he worked in the Jewish community, African-American community, and opened me up to his world of business, where he had connections everywhere. And I always got to meet lots of different types of people, and I love that about my upbringing. But was I good at loving people? I don't know. I think I was open to lots of different types of people, and that was fun. Like, my dad grew up in a trailer, so he grew up poor. He had family that had less money. He was a hippie turned yuppie and made a lot of money. I saw both sides of the wealth spectrum. I've seen a lot of variety in my life. But I don't know if I was that good at loving people. And then when I got into high school, I was a bad kid. And I got in a lot of trouble, and I had a tribe of people. We all did bad things together, and we were connected because of that. But did we really love each other? I don't know. I just think we like doing the same kind of stuff. We liked each other, and then when I got out of that scene, I realized I don't even know these people. And I'm not even so sure I want to be their friend. Even the girlfriend I had at the time, I'm like, how did I end up with this girl? Because I was that wild, right? And then I got into this religious quest, and I was searching, and I don't think I was good at loving people. It was just for me. Like, I wanted to figure out what was true, what was right for me. I wanted to fulfill myself. I wanted to find inner peace and things like that. And I studied all sorts of stuff. And I hit every wall, and then I became a Jesus follower, and I read this, eventually, after that. It's from Acts 2, 42 through 47. It's where we're going to be hanging out. And it'll be up here as well. If you're looking at the broken screen, you're going to miss a little part of it, but that's all right. They devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching. It's talking about the early church, and the fellowship, and the breaking of bread, and the prayers. And awe came upon every soul, and many wonders and signs were being done through the apostles. And all who believed were together and had all things in common. And they were selling their possessions and belongings and distributing the proceeds to all as any had need. And day by day, attending the temple together and breaking bread in their homes, they received their food with glad and generous hearts, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord added to their number day by day those who were being saved. You might have read this before, you might not have. When I read this, it blew me away. I'm like, wow, these people, this is serious stuff. Was this the community I was looking for? This kind of community? A cult thing? Because when I grew up, I thought that Christianity was cultish. But then I read stuff like this, and I'm like, this is just beautiful. Was this the kind of community I was looking for? Yeah, it was. Jesus set the example of a perfect community, and by faith, we can imperfectly pursue that together. After 19 years of following Jesus, I've been through all sorts of weird religious stuff and seen different versions of Christianity. I've seen denominational differences, been in different denominations, hung with the conservatives, hung with the liberals, hung with the Pentecostals, hung with the Baptists, hung with the megachurch, hung with the rural church, hung with the suburban church, hung with the urban church. And I looked and looked and looked, and I find myself now in Kenmore pursuing Acts 2, 42 through 47 with all of you. That's why I'm here. God led me there. I kept reading that, and I'm like, man, I want to be a part of a community that's really trying to live that. Really. And I see that all the time here. I do. It's not perfect, but we're going for it. I'm in a series that I'm calling Resolutions. Real corny, I know, for January. But last week I talked about eternity and what it means to live for eternity. And this week, I'm talking about what it means to be in an eternal community. And I'm going to share a little bit of our vision, too, the importance of missional communities, being communities on mission. And we have this is one of three priorities that I'm going to talk about. One of the three priorities we have as a community at the chapel in Kenmore. So let's look now and dig into how the early church was a community on mission. And I think we'll see that Jesus set the example of a perfect community, and by faith we can imperfectly pursue that together. So I'm going to set up 2 circles right now because I love circles, and lately I've been into Venn diagrams, man. Pretty nerdy. But 2 circles. This has become a real buzzword in the church lately. That circle's kind of small. I'll make it bigger. Missional community, right? Now, in the church world, if you're not part of the church, you're like, I don't care what that means at all. But if you're in the church world, you've heard this thrown around a lot. And I want to set up the tension between the two and look at what the early church did. Because I'm pretty convinced that mission and community were both happening simultaneously. So let's look. The first thing I'm going to underline in here, we're going to go through this passage, and I'm just going to kind of underline spots of it. So you can pull it out of your paper Bible or your phone Bible. Take a look. It says, and the fellowship. Fellowship means koinonia. It's a close mutual association. It's definitely more than a religious club. It's a family. It's not a cult. It really is a close-knit group of people that are getting together. So I think for us in missional communities and with missional partners and things like that, the slide's not working right now. They're just being weird on you, huh? Technical difficulties. Oh, there's that one. Cool, sorry, man. I just love having impromptu moments, man. I don't want this to be a production. Please let me know, man, if I make it that way. So, but I mean, for missional communities, I mean, we can't just have small talk. We've got to have fellowship. We've got to have deep fellowship together. Yeah, that first one. It's just going haywire, but that's all right. Just look at it. We've got to get deep and not just have small talk. We've got to be together, be close, be like a family. It's really true. That's what the early church did. We should do the same if we're going to be communities on mission. So, I mean, fellowship is a part of community, isn't it? It's like when you love each other well, you're going to have fellowship. Close-knit family. The church is meant to be that. It is not a building. It's not an organization. It's a family. It's meant to be that. And all who believe were together and had all things in common. Again, Jesus set the example of a perfect community, and by faith we can imperfectly pursue that together. And if we are Jesus followers, we're not going to be robots. See, I used to think this, like you become a Jesus follower, and all of a sudden you're going to start wearing pleated pants and wear polo shirts and talk like Ned Flanders, or talk like somebody from some corny sitcom in the early 90s. And that's not true. People are different in the church. Some have a lot of money, some have a little money. White, black, Latino, all different backgrounds. Some are raised in the church, some are religious, some are not. But they all come together and they have all things in common. What does that mean? I mean, all things in common. Well, what it means is being knit together. It means that we're knit together because of Christ. We're way different. We're a gathering of freaks, all different ages, all different backgrounds that come together, and Christ brings us together. So we're actually able to love each other well, be honest with one another, have loving relationships, and handle conflict well, and care for each other. That's what it means to have all things in common. That no matter what our differences are, we have the commonality of Christ that knits us together like a beautiful tapestry. It's a fact. And it doesn't matter what age you are, or how smart you are, or what you believe even. If we're really to be the church, we need to open the door real wide, outside of our preference, to invite in people of all different places, all different backgrounds, all different thought patterns, all different situations to come together under Christ. It's a fact. And that's what they did. We're going to see that. We're going to see that. So, again, we've got another thing here, that they were together and had all things in common. That's community, right? All things in common. And it means they weren't fake with one another either. They opened up about what was going on inside with each other. And they were selling their possessions and belongings and distributing the proceeds to all as any had need. Wow. I've been in situations in church where they just skip this first. They're like, oh, I ain't even touching that. But I'll tell you what. In our culture, it's kind of crazy. Like, people think it's kind of nuts. It's over the top. But Jesus set the example of a perfect community, and by faith we can imperfectly pursue that together. So, I mean, these early Christians were doing that. They weren't grabbing for all they could get, but they were wildly generous and helping other people. Big time. Really, really caring for needs. Some people have read this and they're like, were they communists? Did they just pool their money together and then they distributed and they figured out this is the income everybody should make and we're just going to give this to everybody? No. There were people that had a lot. There were people that had less. But they cared for each other. And the people that had a lot didn't live high on the hog and tried to help people that were hurting so that there weren't needy among them. It wasn't a commune either where they're selling everything and getting rid of everything and they're like living naked in a nudist colony eating tree bark. They were loving one another and caring for each other. And it's not capitalism either, by the way. Who's another term there? It wasn't like survival of the fittest, like some people have it real good, some people have it bad, and too bad for the people that didn't get it together. So it's kind of complicated, isn't it? It kind of blasts apart any world system we have. And for missional communities, I mean, we need to be wildly generous so people taste the generosity of Christ. And that starts with tangible generosity, meeting needs, helping people, doing good, blessing people, and caring for people. We can't meet every need, but we gotta try. And was Jesus generous? Whew. That's a loaded question. The Son of God, who was with God forever and then came down to be a human and die in our place, he generously gave his whole life. And did he display generosity in his life? Oh, yeah. I mean, he turned water into wine at a wedding. He turned loaves and fish, multiplied for lots of people to feed a lot of people. He displayed generosity like crazy, and we ought to do the same. And day by day, breaking bread in their homes, they received their food with glad and generous hearts. This is another part. Now, when I think about this part of this passage, I think of like India, the church in India. I think of the church in China. And I've been so convicted as an American Christian studying about how they live their faith. In the church in China, sometimes people are getting up at 4 a.m. daily to pray for hours. Commitment. Deep commitment. This is happening in the global church where people really are day by day getting together and pressing into the presence of God and living for him with everything they got. I get it, we're a busy culture, but commitment matters, man. And I think we can look at the global church and see what commitment to Christ really is. We can be very devoted to a community. And it ain't a cult thing, but I'm telling you, in America, we gotta beg people, please come. Maybe we can do something flashier. Maybe if I wear a sequin pair of pants next Sunday, more people will come. Maybe if we, get a building that's real glitzier. Maybe if we have 10 rock stars. We have Steven Tyler from Aerosmith up here leading worship. We gotta trick people into coming. And you look at the global church, and it's not that way. They're just glad to meet with Jesus. And I think we need to learn from that and not act like we're better than that. We're not. We need to learn from it. I mean, they were breaking bread in their homes and receiving their food with glad and generous hearts. I mean, they were together. Missional communities do this when they get together and eat regularly. It'd be good to get together in a missional community and celebrate communion all the time. Remember Jesus. As you get together with people, remember, take a moment. You can grab crackers. You can grab some saltines. You can grab some bread and remember him. You can grab a little juice. You can even do it with a little LaCroix and remember him. It doesn't got to be grape juice. Remember Jesus. But also, they ate together. They were together. They lived together. They did life together. And that's what we want. And again, I say all this, and I get it. We're in a high commitment culture. We are in a busy culture. Work is very busy. I get it. We might not be like the church in China or India, but why not strive to be committed to everything we're doing? Why not strive to just be part of it with everything we can? And we learn from the early church in that way. And having favor with all the people, and the Lord added to their number day by day those who were being saved. Favor means goodwill. It means acceptance with all people. All people. All people. Look and they're like, man, what's going on with these people, man? I don't believe what they believe, but this is crazy. There's something like extraordinary going on here, but it kind of freaked me out. I don't know if I want to be a part of it, but maybe I need to see what's happening. Because there's so much good things that God was doing. So this just leads me to the fact that when Jesus followers are all in, ooh, that's bad handwriting. God draws people to them. Like a magnet, right? That's mission. When Jesus followers are all in, God draws people to them because he sees that these people are lit and committed to Christ with everything they are. Of course I want people that don't know me to be around these people that are for real, that love me with their whole life. Yeah. I want as many people as I can get to see that. Having favor with all the people, and the Lord added to their number day by day those who are being saved. People are being saved because they're seeing how it's being lived. And it's so magnetic and so powerful and so legitimate and so non-hypocritical, not religious, but really living for God. And God is doing amazing things, and people can't help it. I think about cupcakes when I think about this. Imagine you had a cupcake recipe that was really good. You'd put it together, and you put it out there on the internet. And then people started doing it and using it. And somebody made a business out of it, your recipe, and you're like, that's okay. I put it out there for free. I'm not meaning to get anything back. But then they mess up the ingredients. Well, you'd be like, that's not my cupcake. It might be your cupcake, but that's not mine. And they make a cupcake that even tastes bad or is messed up or weird. You'd be like, that's your cupcake, it's not mine. I really think that God looks down on the church and goes, I got the recipe here for you, man. And if you make that recipe, I'm going to honor it. That's not legalism. That's not saying you better honor it. There's love. There's forgiveness in all this. But if we honor what's here, all this stuff, God then wants to bless it. So I'd say let's follow the recipe. Let's stop doing church in all these weird, bizarre ways that we've seen, that we've learned in our culture, that we've learned in buildings, that we've learned from denominations, that we've learned from people, and look at what God was really doing in his people here. Let's follow the recipe. I want to challenge each one of you individually, if you're not already, to invest in 2 people who don't follow Jesus, if you're not, or more. Do it. And I mean invest. Invest. If you're a Jesus follower and you've been hanging in the club for a while, invest in 2 people. Pray for them. Meet on their turf. Tell them about Jesus when the opportunity arises. It makes sense to them. Explain things in a way that makes sense. Don't use weird Christian words. Be patient. Be available. Display Jesus in your life. Train others to do the same. Because the goal here in the end, guys, is that we see all of this happening. We are a church that does so well at loving one another. We do so well with community. And some people are really good with this. They're so good with community. They're good at loving one another and caring for one another. And they do that for one another. And then we have other people in our community that are so good at this. They're so good at mission. They're so good at making it available to people that don't get it. And they're going and going and going and trying to reach and trying to reach and trying to help and trying to do good. But they need to come together. We need to love one another well as the church. And then together reach people. And we all need, if you're on this side too much, you need to come to the middle. And if you're on this side too much, you need to come to the middle. We need to come to that center where, like the early church, you see so much love that's inward focused. And you see so much love that's outward focused, and it's happening at the same time. That's synergy, baby. Isn't it? It's energy. I mean, it's God lighting people up. We got to make space in missional communities for people to belong before believing. And we got to keep loving each other well, both. Imagine communities pursuing, being together, having all things in common. Wild generosity, commitment to each other and the church, and favor with people who are religious and irreligious. Favor with people outside. They see it and they see it's legit. You have all those ingredients in the recipe, then people would meet Jesus. Again, this ain't legalism. I'm not saying do this and then God will be happy with you. I'm saying God loves you and is leading you to this. He's holding this up as an ideal, and we should just pursue it together and keep going. And it's okay when we fall short of it, because we're gonna. It's okay. He's gonna love us anyway. And we can keep going after it together. We can't do it alone. We can't just be individuals rogue on this thing. We can't do it. It can't be done. That's not how the global church is behaving. We shouldn't do it either. We can't be by ourselves in that. We gotta band together and do it, man. Let's do it. Let me pray for us, and we'll continue in worship through communion. God, I just ask that you reveal to us what you want us to be as a community, and help us to hold each other together. Each one of us has great strengths and great weaknesses. Help us to band closer together than ever. Help us to be the kind of community that people who are far from God could come and be a part of it for 5, 10, 15, 20 years and still want to be a part of the community because they're observing legitimate Christianity, and help people to come to know you through our community efforts, through what we're doing, through the connections we make.